Thank you. Evening, everyone, and welcome to the December meeting for the Corporate Services and Cost of Living Scrutiny Review Board. Thank you all for coming this evening. We'll move straight into the agenda. Item 1, apologies. I've had apologies from Councillor Mulhall and Councillor Wright. Thank you. Item 2, late items to be introduced by the Chair, of which I have none this evening. Any declarations of interest? Excellent. Item 4, minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of September. Is everyone happy with the minutes from our last meeting? Yeah, thank you. Councillor Wilson. So just for the benefit of those that may be watching online, I've agreed to request to change the order of the items on the agenda tonight. So the cyber security item is going to be considered first. Because this is a private item, we're going to be turning off the live stream for the duration of this discussion before resuming the live stream again for the cost of living update, which will come later on, sometime after 6:30, I'd approximate. So as such, I'm just going to move the motion on the agenda to exclude the public and press under section 100A4 of the Local Government Act. If everyone is happy with that, members? Great, thank you. We are back live. So we'll move on to item 6 on tonight's agenda, which is a cost of living update. Thank you to everyone who's turned up tonight to be part of this update. Heather, is it yourself who's going to kick us off? Great, thank you.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Heather Green, and Director of Corporate Management. We really have assembled the partnership crew this evening. So what I was going to do in the first instance was just introduce everybody. So go to my right first.
Yeah, Paul Brookhouse, Derby Food for Thought and Deputy Chair of the Poverty Commission.
Jonathan Dorey, House Community Action Derby.
Claire Labour and Project Manager for the Holiday Activities and Food Programme for Derby City Council.
Hello, Jane Godfrey, Head of Policy and Insight, Derby City Council.
Hi, Sarah Smith from DWP, based at the Derby City Job Centre.
Georgia Pulford, Climate Change Projects Officer, Derby City Council.
Jenny Wizard, Policy and External Affairs Officer, Derby City Council.
Lovely, thank you very much. So essentially what we're going to do is just give you an overview of the quite extensive range of activity that is currently taking place. I think as members of this board are aware, we have been on a journey over the last few years, and really the offer that we have collectively across the city to support our residents from a cost of living perspective is quite extensive. So clearly what we want to do is just give you an update in terms of, I guess, latest position, where we're currently going. We are working with Resolve Poverty, who are based in Manchester, really just to look at our overall approach. We have been, continuing to try and build resilience in the city to move us, from that kind of short-term cost of living support into more of a longer-term approach in terms of how we support residents and communities in the city to really move out of poverty into greater independence. So ultimately, that's we're going to give you that story this evening, if that's okay. Excellent. So we will move on. So key elements. So we're going to pick up are on the kind of the core part of the offer, really, in terms of cost of living support, particularly around food and essentials. We'll move on to the wider access that we have to kind of a great range of different benefits and support that communities can tap into, and then we'll pick up on the partnership approach to tackling poverty that I've referred to. So I will hand straight over to Mr. Brookhouse. Thank you.
Thanks. Forgot to turn it on. You may have seen in national news that Gordon Brown has talked about the multi-bank kind of concept of actually not just focusing around food, and that was something as a city we've been looking a lot at and kind of working to. So I'm just going to kind of talk through some of that. The food, as it says on there, over the last 6 months between April and September, we've given out just under 11,000 food parcels, which is 1,500 more than it was at this period last year, and those figures naturally are in December. We update them on a quarterly basis. In terms of actual calls, in that period we've had just over 6,340 calls to the kind of single point of access line, which shows it's working, but also shows the pressure it kind of causes in terms of trying to get back to people, and that's across all things. That's not food related, that's everything kind of related. In terms of the food, it equates to meaning that we've helped just over 11,800 adults and 7,000 children, which is a great partnership kind of response across that. The key thing to say around the food is we are looking at how we change the model. The concept of food banks was something that I've been involved with now for 14 years. What food banks were set up for is not what is actually needed going forward, because people need longer term support, and we've got some ways we're looking at changing that from April. And as part of that, we are going to be having a unit at the market hall, so that we have a face-to-face kind of community shop concept that will also have a permanent school uniform offer, which is something at the very first meeting we were asked about, and so it's great to kind of see that's happening. You know, furniture, electrical items, we've had over 750 items donated in the last 12 months, which is, you know, many things saved and going to landfill, you know, being able to reuse them. You know, we've helped over 150 households, which might not seem that many, but actually when you're helping them with multiple items, you know, it's kind of crucial that. School uniform, we introduced this year a small kind of donation, kind of almost like compulsory donation we were asking, which was like £3 for a set of school uniform, or if we had been given brand new shoes from another charity, we put an additional £5 on that, which we actually then raised £1,500, which means we can reinvest that back into like buying underwear and tights and stuff that naturally you can't reuse, you know, for people, and make sure we can support them with all those items. The winter offer, we're currently in the crazy season of, you know, different things. We've had additional funding, which means this year we're doing 350 meals rather than 300. And that isn't specifically financial poverty, that's about loneliness and people who are housebound, and making sure that people will have a meal during that period, and working with St. Peter's to do the Christmas hampers, which is great. The winter coats we're going to carry on again, and we still do the things around the air fryers, slow cookers, and the kind of heated blankets. So it's, you know, building more. Obviously, the demand is currently higher and is built in spite of all the fantastic work that's going on, and without things like the household fund, I dread to think how many phone calls and how much kind of need there would be without that crucial side of it. But, you know, it's really positive to see we're going to be able to move forward with, you know, more of a shop and pantry model rather than the food bank model, but also multi-access. So it's not, you have to make a phone call to get furniture, phone call to get uniform, furniture. It will be one point of access to get all the basic essential need that you need. Thank you.
Okay. So in terms of welfare support headlines, I'm going to hand over to Jane Godfrey.
Just as a quick reminder, if you're able to just speak a bit closer to the mic as we're giving the updates. Thank you.
Hello, so apologies from our welfare support colleagues for the meeting, but we just wanted to still flag the excellent work that's taking place in the team. So I'm just going to talk through this on behalf of the service. So they've supported over 600 households with our various discretionary housing and council schemes. So, for example, the council tax reduction scheme. And they've also achieved over 2.3 million in financial rewards. We will be picking up on some of this in some of our colleagues' slides as well. But they've supported nearly 2,000 most vulnerable individuals through the Home Start specialist casework support packages. Winter warmer essentials, I think these appear later on as well in another slide, but again, just worth noting that we've supported another 72 households and spent 16,000 on winter warmer essentials. We have the Dignity Cupboard in the council house. We're using that to supply toiletries to residents. And then going forward, the areas of focus, they're going to be looking at the household and energy support funds. Again, winter essentials, benefit awareness support sessions. We'll talk about those shortly. And continuing to work on the low-income family tracker analysis that we've been undertaking as a working group across different services. So again, we'll come on to talk about that shortly. And then for the Crisis Resilient Fund, does anybody else?
I'm happy to.
Are you happy to pick that one?
Yeah,
Thanks, Heather.
That's fine. So I guess a key change that the board may be aware of, but is the transition from what is currently Household Support Fund through to Crisis Resilience Fund. Now, we are still working through the implications of this, to be fair. What is a positive is that I guess this kind of need is being mainstreamed, because actually what we have been doing through Household Support Fund is just that has been based, you know, it has been confirmed often on a short-term basis. With the Crisis Resilience Fund, we understand that will be a longer-term basis, so will enable more effective planning. However, we are just still trying to work through the implications of that. And whilst I think there was a consultation earlier in the year which we fed into the actual funding allocation and the draft guidance in terms of the criteria, for example, is due kind of either later this month or early next month. So I know colleagues in welfare reform and also kind of benefits team are particularly looking at that. But potentially next time we come and update the board, we can probably give a bit more information. In the meantime, we are still continuing to use Household Support Fund to excellent effect. So if we move to the next slide. So, I mean, there are some core elements here in terms of, for example, supporting free school meal children in terms of, receiving critical food voucher support during school holidays. Warm Welcome Hubs has been a really essential part of this, and I'm going to hand over to Jonathan, who's going to say a little bit more on this.
Thank you. So we're now into the 4th year of running the Warm Welcome Hub scheme, which has just been a wonderful example of partnership working between the council and the voluntary sector, and demonstrates the agility and the reach of the voluntary sector in times of crisis and being able to help those most in need. So over the past 4 years, we've developed a community asset network across the city. We have 65 plus voluntary sector organisations now providing warm food, warm drinks, access to emergency vouchers. They are trusted referrers back into the council, and also general health and wellbeing advice and helping people overcome isolation and loneliness. So in the past, the period of June to September, we've had nearly 29,000 Derby City residents attend the hubs for food voucher access, and over 4,300 households receiving food vouchers through that, and another 1,900 receiving an emergency energy support. We're hoping to be able to continue this into the next year, but we need to wait to see what the Crisis Resilience Fund will bring.
I was just going to say, because looking at the page after moves on to the holiday activities and food, that perhaps this is a good point just to pause for a second for members to just jump in with any questions that they wanted to raise based on what we've heard so far. I'll go Councillor Repton then.
Yeah, I think there's some really good achievements in here. So our thanks go to the officers involved in that, some of the invaluable work they actually do. I'm looking at the welfare support headlines, where it says that it achieved over £2.3 million in financial awards since 2018. I was just curious if you have any breakdown of the figures for those 7 years. If we take it from March 2018 to March 2025, that works out an average of £310,000 a year. I just wonder if there's any fluctuations in that, or whether you have those figures to hand at all. Because the reason for asking that is, if there are big differences, possibly why, what affected them? Thank you.
Sorry, Mike. I was going to say microphone isn't working brilliantly. I was going to say, I'm really sorry we don't have those figures to hand. I'm sure we do. What I will do is I will ask colleagues in our welfare reform team to circulate those to the board. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for the first part of the presentation. I've got a couple of questions. Mentioned about food parcels. There's been an increase. Do you know what's driving the rise of that? Also, I think you mentioned the community shop in the market hall. In terms of the impact of that, how are you going to measure that? Sorry, I can't read my own writing. So I think with the fund, the CRF fund, was it CRF fund? It's 600 households. Is that the right fund that have been reached? Is that what was I referring to that one?
CRF is the new fund that's launching from April.
No, sorry, the old fund. Sorry.
Yeah, the household support fund.
600 households. Is that right? No?
That's from April. So that's for the discretionary housing fund. So yeah, it was about 600 from April this year.
And how many do you think you haven't reached out of, or you would like to reach, kind of thing? Have you had like sort of a target?
Again, unfortunately, that's within welfare support. So we can certainly ask that question and circulate.
And with going to CRF, are there any risks to households with the change as in that, yeah, obviously the guidance might change. Then I've got a question for the warm hub welcome hubs. I think there's 29,883 residents. Is that unique visitors or is that over?
Yeah, they are unique visitors. Out of dignity, respect of dignity for people, we don't collect too much data. We have data on whether they're adults, children, disabled or pensioners. And we are going to start running a trial this December, collecting some postcode data if people are willing.
Yeah, that's going to lead to my next question is do we collect feedback from residents that attend
Yeah, we do have some qualitative data, but like I said, out of dignity for those in need, we don't drill down too much.
Yeah, so in terms of our two questions, I think, naturally the increase, it is the constant increase really of things going up. I think even if you look at some of the recent budget statistics, they will still show that households will still be in a deficit in terms of income compared to what they would have been 12 months ago. And so I think we have the perfect cocktail really, don't we? The cost of living crisis, the war in Ukraine, Brexit, and the impact of that, we're starting to see that unfold, as well as all the other impacts. I think it's steadily has been building. However, obviously there's been a lot of the targeted work that has helped keep that not from a massive increase that it could have been without some of this wraparound. In terms of the kind of the unit we will have in the market hall, part of the main reason for that is, a lot of our access is through the phone line or through online services. We want to make sure we have a face-to-face opportunity directly to work with us alongside the new kind of city partnership kind of team, because they are also going to be based in there. But it's about people choosing what they want food-wise rather than more of a transactional thing of being given a package. It's that access, and then making sure, because it's so close to the council house and some of the other partners, when people come here for crisis support, they can come straight over and get that support rather than having to go through the telephone line and then be referred onto a partner. So we will manage that based on, we keep accurate records of everyone who accesses us and where they go. So we will naturally keep those records and all the other data that goes with that, and see how that develops really. Okay.
Thanks, Paul. And just on that, I think the final question was just are there any risks around the Crisis Resilience Fund? And I think there are, as there is with any new fund, and it's just we're just trying to work our way through the implications. I think of that at this point. I was going to say I'm not an expert, so it's just trying to make sure that, clearly we're supporting a number of different things through Household Support Fund, and we know that there's some real benefits that are being delivered. It's just trying to make sure that the criteria of the Crisis Resilience Fund is flexible enough to be able to, accommodate where we need it to. The other aspect is that I think DHPs, so the discretionary housing payments, that is being linked as part of the Crisis Resilience Fund. Now that implementation has actually been delayed. I think it's till 2028. Is that right? So I think that was a big relief once we were all aware of that in terms of the implications there. But again, there are others who are much more qualified to speak on this, if that's okay. But yeah, thank you.
I was going to query something on the CRF as well, but I think we can Councillor Wilson and your point ahead of covering it off. So thank you for that. And I was just going to say, Paul, I think when you last came here, we were talking about, you gave an update on the numbers of people receiving food. It seems like the figures just, they go up. I think we saw that on previous reports, and we're seeing that again on this report, unfortunately. But no, thank you all for those updates. So happy to move on to the next part, is it holiday activities and food programme? Great.
Yeah, that's me. Thank you very much. So yeah, I just wanted to give you an overview on the holiday activities and food programme. If you're not familiar with it, if you could move on to the next slide, that'd be great. Thank you. So the holiday activities and food programme, referred to as HAF in short, is funded by the Department for Education. And you may remember during COVID, sort of the Marcus Rashford campaign, where he highlighted that as a child growing up in living in a low-income family, he had very little food during the holidays, little exposure to physical activity, very few opportunities. And so the programme has been in place for 4 years now. We work closely in partnership with Community Action Derby to deliver free holiday clubs across the city during the Easter, summer and winter school holidays, primarily for children who are on benefit-related free school meals. So our aim is to, reach out to those most vulnerable families. And the main aims of the programme are around tackling holiday hunger and the isolation that young people may experience and the lack of physical activity. So I've put some photographs in here to just try and bring the programme to life for you. So food and nutrition is a key element of it, as the name would suggest. So the providers we work with across the city have to, look to find creative ways to deliver food, to create lovely home-cooked meals there that you can see, and also providing opportunities for young people to manage, their own food, get involved in cookery, learning new skills, trying new food. And the photograph there on the right is of Electric Daisy in the city centre, where one of our providers bridge the gap, take their young people, and they get a chance to grow food, to pick food, to taste food. So giving children really lovely opportunities there. Another key area of the programme is around physical activity and making sure that children are active during the holidays. So our providers have a huge range of activities: sports, rock climbing, football, roller skating, wrestling, all sorts of things going on. You can see there some young footballers and a young girl doing archery. And that is a key element as well, and giving those young people the opportunities that they may not have. Enrichment is a really key part of the programme as well. This is a sign, you might not be able to see in detail here, but this is from Community One, who are one of our largest providers in the city. They support between 250 and 300 children in their setting during the holiday periods. There's rock climbing on there. There were trips to the seaside. There were baking competitions. So really positive opportunities for young people. And there's just a photo from a couple of years ago, the previous one actually, thank you, where a group of people from Community One we ran a project in conjunction with the National Trust at Hardwick Hall, where those young people got an opportunity to be young rangers and experience the outdoors and learn about where their food comes from. So really lovely, positive elements of the programme. And as well, just a couple of smiley faces there with lots of animal encounters, trips to the museum, so some really positive things happening there. So as far as where we are to date, during this year, we've had 42 providers who've delivered over 60 different clubs across the city. So we've got clubs in every ward across the city, and they support children of all ages, of school age. During Easter and summer, we supported 4,000 children and young people, and as part of that, 23,000 meals were served, so those children were going home with hopefully full tummies and having a really positive day. We've brought in a new booking system for the programme from Easter this year, which has meant that we've extended our reach across the city. So every single family who has a child who is eligible for benefit-related free school meals receives a code and can book a place if it is available. Winter is looking really good. It's a smaller offer during winter because many of our providers understandably might want a break. And we know historically that the take-up is a little bit lower in winter, so we have expanded it this year with a really lovely family offer, which has been snapped up. So tickets for the pantomime, theatre, ice skating, again, some of those opportunities that families may not be able to afford, they can have a really special day out together. And then just where we are at the moment, so the government have confirmed another 3 years' worth of funding for HAF, so it's equating to £600 million. So we are waiting currently from the guidance from the Department for Education. We're expecting it before Christmas, and that will tell us if there are any major changes to the programme that's being delivered. But we're hoping that we will continue to get a similar financial allocation as we've had in previous years. We are looking, because we have this new three-year funding in place, to refocus and strengthen in some areas that we know we need to. So increasing our partnership links with partner organisations, but also really working on developing relationships with schools, who are absolutely key for getting those young people engaged in this. Increasing our provision for the younger children, where we don't have as much provision as we would like in the city. And also working on a particular project with the rest of the inclusion team, looking at supporting those children in those key transition periods, so in early years into primary school and year 6 into year 7, where many young people can experience difficult circumstances and fall through the gaps. Just finished there with a few quotes from some of our families, and I think, you know, I won't read them. You can do that in your own time, but I think it just highlights, number one, the families who really, really benefit from actually knowing their child is getting a meal on those days during the holidays, and then the additional things, you know, the things that the children have learned, the positive experience and the friendships that they've made. Very happy for anybody to contact me if you want any more information, and also anybody is very, very welcome if you'd like to come out over the winter and see any of our HAF provision, see providers in action. You just drop me a line and we can arrange something to do that.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for not only the quotes, which are, you know, really nice to read, but also the photos as well. I don't think we get enough photos in reports nowadays, so it was really good to have those included and actually just get a bit of a visual of the kids out there enjoying the various activities that are put on. And obviously, you can see the smiles on their faces. Just going back to one point you mentioned around the partnership links with schools. Yes. So, is schools the first port of call when we're trying to identify or make the children or the parents, the families aware that you know, this is available to them, or are there other methods as well?
There are other methods, but the schools are absolutely critical in this. So we have a booking system that issues a voucher and an email to every eligible family. That is based on a list that the schools upload of their eligible children. Now, you know, we know that obviously in Derby we've got lots of, we've got language barriers, we've got digital barriers, we've got literacy barriers. So we know that not every family are going to be able to get that email, understand that email and necessarily book their families on. So you know, schools are absolutely critical in supporting those families, signposting those families to us. And we do, you know, we're a very, very small team, but we do try as much as we can to go into schools and have sessions with families, sit down, help them do the bookings if we can. But I think strengthening those relationships and our reach across schools is absolutely key to this. And many, many schools are very, very, you know, very well involved, but there are others that, you know, can be a challenge to engage with and to spread the word. We've also got a lot of marketing around the city. So we've got lamppost banners, we've got the digital boards, and we do lots of, you know, send lots of information out via social media and the website to try and promote the clubs that we've got available to the families in need.
And you talked earlier about things getting booked up very quickly. Is demand outstretching what is, you know, currently available to be offered, or does it depend on the activity? A Christmas panto, I'm sure everyone probably you know, wants to jump on that, for example.
Yeah, it very much depends on the activity. So we're not actually at capacity yet, you know, and we can't. It has to be said that we can't, with the budget we've got, reach every single child on free school meals in the city. We, you know, we could reach around 20% of the children on free school meals. Some of our providers book up incredibly quickly. We've got places like Moorways who are offering a fantastic offer. So they do swimming lessons and they do cycling lessons and things, again, that families may not be able to access. They book up within minutes, as have the, as you say, the pantomime, the theatre tickets. We have still got, I checked earlier, and we have still got providers right across the city who have got availability and a wide range of things. So we've got, you know, Derby County Community Trust doing football training. We've got small community organisations who are really embedded in those communities, know their families and can really support them. So yeah, we have got availability. We're not at capacity yet, but we know that there's a lot of people that need the support who may not be able to access it. So that is our challenge, is kind of widening that reach across the city.
Great, thank you. Any questions from Councillor Wilson? Could I just actually turn your mic off in between? Thank you.
Thank you, and yes, the HAF programme sounds really positive, amazing, and yeah, as I think Councillor Patterson covered about, I think you've talked about the challenges that face, and I suppose it's getting to those families that have got greater need and those challenging families as well. And I'm guessing you're relying more on the schools to sort of signpost those families to this programme. Are there any other sort of services, like social services, for example, that also can signpost families as well?
Yes, we work with a number of partners who will signpost to us. So schools are, as I said, are kind of a key area, but we also work with places like the family hubs, And yeah, social services do refer a lot of children through and support those families, as do organisations like Upbeat Communities, where you might be working with new arrivals in the city and children who might not be sort of necessarily in school but are considered vulnerable. So yeah, we work with a lot of organisations who promote and refer children through to the programme.
Great, thank you. I don't think there's any more questions from... Oh, sorry, Councillor Cuss.
Thank you, Chair. Just around capacity, which you already answered a lot of the questions I had written down. Have you got the data on the previous years, how many people you supported last year, year before that and stuff like that? It'd be good to see if there's a trend, if it's shooting up rapidly, then, you know, in the future years, what capacity you need to be at to support them families.
Yeah, we have got the data from last year, and actually I can share the copy of our annual report from last year with you all that has the data in it. We supported almost 6,000 children last year. Three-quarters of those primary age. It is definitely the stronger in the sector of our providers is delivering that primary age. Secondary age children are more of a challenge to get involved for some of the reasons that you might appreciate. It's harder to get a teenager to attend sort of a club at a particular time of day. Yeah, we are increasing year on year with the number of people who are taking up places. We saw a slight shift when we moved to our new booking system, because obviously we are, even though we've got a greater reach, it is a new system, and we're finding that families, it's taking them time to get used to it, to recognise that the email that's coming through to them is the voucher that they need to link them to it. So we are doing a lot of communication and to highlight, what parents need to look for, how to access the system. But, we're finding that the programme is growing and the reach across the city is increasing year on year.
Thank you so much. Just on the point around the annual report, it'd be great to have that shared around, not just with, if it hasn't already. I can be a bit useless with my inbox sometimes. So, if it hasn't been shared around, not just with our committee, but I think with all council as well, it'd be a great thing to send around to everyone, just so we can all take a look through it. That'd be great.
That's absolutely fine. I'll make sure that's shared with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the final part, I guess, Heather, for the rest of the slides.
Thank you very much. So a key part of our overall strategy is about promoting financial inclusion, and in particular making sure that people are accessing the benefits that they're entitled to. It is a complex system, and actually it's not always clear to people in terms of exactly what they're entitled for. So we have undertaken a variety of benefit awareness events. I think my colleague, I was going to say from DWP, can probably say a bit more on this. Thanks.
Yes, the 8 events that we had around Derby started off with a market hall. That was the end of October. So it's over been over like a 5-week period. We've had these 8 events in churches, community centres. There's been a really good uptake. One of them was in a school, first primary school. Couldn't tell you how many people we've actually had, because I didn't attend 3 of them. I did attend 5 myself. But providers that did attend were Welfare Rights, Derby Homes, obviously Derby City Council, Citizens Advice, Family Services, Age UK, Disability Direct, the Police, Dementia Group, and Energy Efficiency, of course, the lovely Georgia. We felt that we had there was some really quality conversations made there, because we had quite a few customers that were not working, that wanted to do something. So it was great to have those sort of challenging conversations. Some of them had children with disabilities that we could have conversations with. Right, look, there is something you can do. Let's get you in the job centre. So we felt that there was to every single one of them we had quite a few decent conversations that were going to become good outcomes.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, shall we move on to fuel poverty? Georgia?
Yep. So I run our home energy advice service for the city. So this provides free and impartial information for residents on their bills, energy debt and more. And as Heather said, we pulled together a partnership, and then I've created a partnership within a partnership, so a partnershipception, if you like, which brings together the organisations that you can see on the slide there. So we've got Warmer Derby and Derbyshire, which is part of March's Energy Agency. We've got the Green Doctor Scheme, part of Groundwork 5 Counties. We've got National Energy Action, National Energy Foundation, and then a not-for-profit, Yes Energy Solutions, who are the approved managing agent for certain funding schemes for the council. We meet regularly, sort of on a quarterly basis, to kind of share insights, share data, understand what resources are available between each of us and where we can share that resource to reach more people. It's innovative in that these partners have shared that there are no other councils that are proactively pulling together organisations like this, so that makes Derby a leader in this space. We attend events together, and this reduces customer contact points, so rather than them coming to talk to me, I then have to do a referral form. There's then a phone call. We can get people to the point of help that they need on the first go. So since March, myself and Yes have supported over 300 households directly through conversations that we've had. Obviously, being in the climate change team, the ultimate upshot of the work that I do is around carbon reduction, and that's almost 130 tonnes of annual carbon reduction through energy efficiency items that have been provided. Some work that we've done recently is around briefing GPs and primary care networks, so we're trying to prevent fuel poverty happening in the first place, and also stopping, reducing respiratory illness presentations within primary care, reducing burden on the NHS by ensuring that people's homes are properly insulated and that they can heat them. And then coming up, we've got some quite ambitious plans to sort of join Paul and his team in the Market Hall with a permanent home energy advice and retrofit hub. So again, a source of free and impartial information for all residents at any time of year for support with energy bills in their home. And then through the partnership with National Energy Action, they have funded 20 workshops that are being delivered in primary schools across the city. And we've been data-led in that, and we are targeting them in areas where there are high levels of deprivation and fuel poverty. So we're knowing that the families that need that support most are getting it.
Fantastic, thank you. I think there's just two more updates after this, but if the councillors have any members have any initial questions based on those two updates that we've just heard. I just had one around the benefits awareness stuff. Getting the DWP and others to come along to those sessions, and at the bottom it talks about impact will be shared. I assume when we're analysing the impact, we're looking at the people that are who have come in who are not in work, who are then subsequently we're finding that they're coming along to these sessions and they're subsequently finding employment.
Do you have any?
I can give a bit more. I can share a good news story of an outcome from the session. So they're actually having a debrief session tomorrow on just thinking about, successes. What did we do well? What can we learn? How can, we improve these events going forward? So there'll be more to follow. There was around 60 residents that were supported, and in particular, one strong outcome that we wanted to share was a resident in severe financial hardship with no income after losing employment and being incorrectly directed away from some benefits, then received some detailed advice, had some support to make a successful claim for the new style ESA, reassurance and information regarding their upcoming PIP tribunal support, and they described the intervention as transformative, and they felt it prevented further financial crisis. So that's you know, and that's just one resident that we're helping, but you know, at that kind of level where they feel that, you know, that intervention supported them in that way. So there's going to be a few more case studies coming out, some follow-ups of how people were helped during those sessions.
Great, thank you. Happy to move on to the final two, thank you.
Yeah, in actual fact, the question of impact is very pertinent, and you know, being data-led, as I think Georgia referred to, is an approach that we're increasingly taking up, and the low-income family tracker is helping us with that. So I'm going to hand over back to Jane.
Yeah, so I think we've mentioned it, Lift, in the last couple of sessions that we've had, and just to refresh it, this is a tool that helps us look at, it combines data sets in the background to give us a comprehensive view of a household and their financial resilience, their current situations where they may become financially vulnerable or already are financially vulnerable, and we're able to track them over time. It allows us to target where we put our support services and campaigns that we might run to increase benefit take-up. So these are a few examples of how we've used Lift over the last few months. So we looked immediately at those that were at risk or in crisis, and we were able to identify just over 100 households. Going through the motions of contacting, offering support and engagement, we were then able to work with 20 who can, and they're now receiving support, or we signposted them to our partners. You'll be aware of the pension credit campaign that we ran last winter, and it went through into spring and summer. So we were able to support 140 pensioners through the campaign. And I think something that we, you know, for each household, so we're looking at just over £3,000 worth of support annually per household. But when you look at that over a lifetime, you know, that's 3.8 million coming into those households, you know, which is quite significant when we're taking into life expectancy in Derby. You know, that's how we look at those financials and work that out. And then just going back to those benefit awareness sessions, so we, again, identified just under 2,000 households who could benefit from that support. Again, this is something where there's some really good learning here. So we targeted those households. Obviously, the turnout significantly lower than that. But I think these examples also demonstrate how we need to think about the best way to try and engage, and we try and work with our comms and marketing teams to think of as many different ways as possible to get the messages out there and reach out for support. But I think as partners we'll probably confirm it's not always that easy to engage. But, you know, we're trying as many different ways as possible, and they'll reflect on that tomorrow, how to improve that going forward. And we'd like to use this for some more targeted work around homelessness. And we know we have a number of residents who are over the age of 80 and they're eligible for attendance allowance, but they aren't receiving it. And that attendance allowance will make a huge difference to them with what further benefits that would open up to them. So that will be our next campaign, is contacting them and seeing if they'll engage with further support there.
Sorry, there are a few other good news stories as well, kind of good news stories, but they're nice outcomes. An ex-veteran came into one of them. She had a son who's with autism, and she was worried about claiming carer's allowance because she thought it was going to come off her standard allowance. But then we explained that once you claim the carer's allowance, you also, on UC, you get a carer's element as well. So then it's kind of like, it puts it back on again, so she's not going to lose the money. So she was really pleased with that and helped make the claim. Another lady, a widowed lady, helped her with accessing water discount and council tax reductions. And another young girl, 20 she was, She'd lost her job about 6 months ago, didn't know what to do. I think she'd been looking after her mum for quite some time. And I think she felt like she had the weight of the world on her shoulders looking after her mum. And her mum was there, but we were talking to her mum. And we managed to get her on to see the Employment and Skills Hub. She came in to make a claim for UC. So we helped her make the claim, and then we got her an appointment with them. So now she's looking at an apprenticeship in teaching assistant. That's really nice.
That's great. Thank you for sharing some of those with us.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, so if we move on to the next slide, please. I think hopefully what we've been able to illustrate this evening is that there is some really great support out there. We are increasingly trying to target it, so that we can get out to people who may not be currently accessing that support that they're entitled to. But I suppose the question is what next? How do we move away from, I guess, the kind of the short-term support potentially into some of the more longer-term structural issues around inequalities in the city? And that is very much where we are focusing going forward. That overall development of a citywide strategy to reduce poverty. And this is where I'm going to hand over to my colleagues, Paul and Jenny, who can talk a little bit more.
Yes, so myself and Jenny went to the Resolve Poverty, who are based up in Greater Manchester and have been working a lot in that area, and went to their conference earlier in the year. And one thing we recognised is that we could add value by bringing outside experience that's been working on some of this area a bit wider. And we've had some funding, so we, through the Poverty Commission, commissioned Resolve Poverty to work under these main kind of 4 phases. One around the governance and kind of structure, because without that, everything doesn't quite work. One around some of the action planning, or some around a real and crucial thing around lived experience, kind of side of that, and also get an outside view of where they think we're at. And so we've been running a few workshops and developing that with a lot of partners across the city, and waiting for recommendations on a whole host of this and kind of working through that. And obviously for the next one, we'll have an update of where we're kind of at really on that. But we think it's a really crucial thing that, as we said, lots of fantastic work's gone on, but actually we want to strategically, with the ever-changing picture of everything nationally and locally, restructures and everything else, make sure that Derby's in its best place to tackle some of the higher levels we have in poverty than other areas of the country, specifically around child poverty.
Yeah, so just to reinforce what Paul has said, we've done an incredible amount of work, and I think through engaging with Resolve Poverty, it's been heartening to realise that Derby is significantly ahead in terms of pulling together an anti-poverty strategy. I think the challenges in developing the strategy is looking at the next level, as Heather has said. Where do we go from here? And it's bringing the really positive partnership that's developed with all the different interests and all the different elements together to work in a coordinated way across all these areas of work. It's not necessarily about developing anything new, because we've got all the fundamental elements of working together and understanding poverty and its impact in the city, but it is about bringing together the partnership to develop a common language and a common agenda to go forward, and that does take time. And I think we're realising that investing in Resolve Poverty has given us that space and that time to have these crucial discussions, rather than just sort of like head off straight into drafting a strategy and just doing it. I think it's good and it's positive to have the time and space for the partnership and the different parts of the partnership to give their perspective and their take on how they're dealing with poverty and how they see poverty and how it's affecting and impacting the different constituents, the different communities, the different groups in the city. And I think that is really crucial to informing and developing the strategy as we go forward.
Thanks very much. And I think that concludes our presentation, if we move on to the last slide. If I can just say a big thanks to everyone here who has given up their Thursday evening, and they have really brought to life some, some great examples. I think the type of work that we're doing. We recognise that there is more that needs to be done, and we feel the anti-poverty strategy is the way to take that forward. But again, we certainly welcome the the input from members of this board and the wider council in terms of, you know, how we take that forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you that have come along tonight to give the various presentations. I think we've had some of you before the board before, but not all of you. So it was really good to see all the different aspects of the team presented with us tonight. I guess I'll just start on the anti-poverty strategy itself, which has been alluded to is just a case of bringing together a lot of the great work that's already happened and the foundations are there. Have you got rough timescales of when you're hoping to have a draft ready and be ready to sort of push it out there to the wider council?
I mean, we have a draft. We have a draft strategy already, and we have engaged with. We did quite an extensive kind of community engagement event, and we also covered some of the partnership boards, health and wellbeing board, just to kind of draw out. I think there's roughly 5 themes that cover, you know, key areas such as health, housing, financial inclusion, skills, those type of areas. But I think the work that Paul and Jenny have talked about is that what we wanted to do was I guess make sure that we had the right foundations in place to actually move and deliver the strategy. And in particular, I think the lived experience element is really important in terms of just, you know, it's how we learn from people who actually are going through this to inform the interventions that we make. So, I mean, I think the review is due to conclude around January time. So I would hope that we would be able to bring forward a strategy, you know, within a few months after that. So potentially we could be looking at maybe sort of end of this financial year, start of next financial year. But certainly what we'd like to do is bring it forward to Cabinet. And, you know, as part of that, obviously, Exec Scrutiny would have the chance to comment. But, I mean, potentially what we could do is bring a draft here, if you would like to see it, and input to it. We're very happy to do that.
Great, thank you. We can take that away as a possible option. Do any other members have any? Yes, Councillor Wilson.
Thanks. I just want to say thanks for all coming this evening and talking about the great work that you're doing, what there is to be done, and also the challenges that we face. Just a general question is what role does digital exclusion play in access to the support that's offered? Then just some specific questions on the pension credit campaign. What were the top lessons learned with that? And I think on one of the slides it said that I think there was 102 households identified. There's a number of houses that weren't contacted. Is there a reason for that?
I can take digital exclusion. I think we've done a few different things around this. That is certainly something that we're looking at, having some key actions in our poverty, our underpinning kind of action plan, underpinning the strategy, because we do recognise that digital exclusion is really important. I mean, certainly, in terms of people accessing benefits, sometimes that kind of, the digital aspects are can be quite barriers to people. So it's certainly something that we're looking at. My colleague Andy Bramble, who I know you've just seen, probably would be able to give a fuller answer here. But again, we're happy to provide a bit more information on that, perhaps when we bring forward the anti-poverty strategy. Yeah, thanks.
Probably just one thing to add. I think the challenge we're seeing more isn't so much at the moment about accessing digital support. It's about people actually knowing how to use it, I think, is the challenge. And, we see in the ever-changing, world, everything going online, that we assume that it's just some of the older generations that might struggle with it, but actually we're seeing it, so that is more, I think, certainly a challenge that we see, that there's a lot of access. Look at SIM cards and digital equipment. It's spread across the city quite a lot, and the council actually gave some of the more obsolete computers that it had to the warm welcomes so that they could use them if they didn't have access and Wi-Fi access. So I think it's there. It's just meeting some of those ever-changing challenges that people face.
Some IT for beginners courses, just like 2 weeks, 5 days a week, for about 3 hours a day, with a free laptop at the end. So then halfway through, they've been learning on their own laptop, so they know how to switch it on and start again and get it all going. It's been really working well.
So the pension credit campaign, I think it might sound obvious, but something that we've realised is the engagement really drops off over summer because people are thinking less potentially about the winter fuel allowance and how that the pension credit can open up access to those winter fuel benefits. So it really helps us to think about where to spend our time and focusing on that engagement. The other learning was really just linked to that digital inclusion or exclusion. It's when we were able to contact family members and get family members involved, they engaged more and passed on the details, or neighbours passed on the details, and those were the really useful referrals in, and also appreciating that generation were more likely to read letters as they and engage with us in that way. And we did also have a really successful event at the council house. So again, a city centre event seemed to work. You know, we've got the bus stops outside. It's a convenient place to call in potentially. So yeah, there was plenty of learning for us on the engagement side that we can take forward. And we included, like I said on the slide, we included another 450 in these benefit sessions as well. We'll understand hopefully from the debrief if we're able to understand how many of those were pension age residents. And then I think just to clarify, the 102 households, so that is where we then identify them, but our housing benefits team will then attempt to contact them and ask them if they consent to us passing on their details to welfare reform to offer them help. So because of the information governance around that data, because it is DWP and HMRC data, we have to go through that consent process. And when you add in an extra layer, it can be harder to then re-engage with the next phone call, or they might not consent to pass on. They may not want to engage with us. So that's why it was down to the 20 households in the end. Yeah.
Great. I think that is everything from us. So yeah, just another big thank you to you all for taking time to come here tonight and for your presentations, and for all the work that you're doing out across the city. It's much appreciated. So thank you very much. I'm happy for you to all shoot off before we bore you with our final item on the work programme. So I can give it a minute and wait for you all to leave. So thank you. So just moving on to item 7, the work programme. We do have a meeting originally scheduled for Thursday I forget when it was. Anyway, I have a bit of a clash, so I'm just going to move the scheduled March meeting to Thursday the 19th, which hopefully gives you all enough notice on that one. In terms of the next meeting as well, so we were originally going to hear an item on debt management on this tonight's agenda, but it's been a meaty enough meeting anyway, so we're going to just carry that item forward, so that'll appear on the March meeting as well. And I think that's everything from me. So thank you both
for contributions.